Hello, everybody. It's been a very long time, and it's good to see you all again. Well, I can't see you. That's weird to say. You can see me, unfortunately for you. Anyway, I know you probably just want to see the whiskey. I could probably do the whole review just with the camera on the whiskey, but I digress. Anyway, so it's been a very long time, and I'm gonna kind of get into that for just a couple minutes here before I start my review. I got a lot of good feedback from everybody. Some bad feedback, that's natural. You'll always have the trolls on the internet saying just horrendous things that are sometimes hilarious and other times just really lame, like, come on, try a bit harder, trolls. But anyway, I got a lot of good feedback. And just to explain, the reason I took so long off was actually, excuse me, getting over a cold, but still got the cough lingering, which is really embarrassing when, you're going out drinking whiskey. Especially, I went to the Bourbon Festival a couple weeks ago. Hopefully I'll have updates on the website soon. And having a lingering cough, just this slight little tickle in the throat is very embarrassing when you're spending a whole week drinking whiskey. And you have a bunch of, big wigs and master distillers in the industry that you're lucky enough to drink alongside, and they're just staring at you like, oh, look at this newbie. What the heck? Guy can't even nail his whiskey. Anyway, enough of my own personal stupid problems. I'm over it. Anyway, so my friend and I shot those videos a few years back, like I said. We uploaded them to YouTube, of course, last year, edited it with some newer or up-to-date information. But, a lot has changed since then, and that's what I'm going to get to in a moment. But thing is, life, there's a lot going on always. So we're, of course, still good friends, but he's doing his video stuff. He taught me some video editing things, and that's what I'm still trying to learn. That's another reason this is taking so long, is I got to learn all this stuff kind of myself now, so bear with me. You guys have provided some good feedback, but man, YouTube viewers are some picky viewers these days. I mean, most of YouTube videos are done for free, so the standards are ridiculous. So bear with me, guys. Please provide some constructive criticism, not just trolling, but still, I'll do what I can. And I definitely appreciate the support up until now, and that's why I'm trying these again. The more you subscribe and provide positive feedback, the more I will definitely do my best to provide you some quality content. But hopefully the content is more important than the quality of the video. Hopefully I'm providing somewhat good content. Anyway, so like I said, we're going to hopefully upload the rest of the videos at some point. But for now, I need to move on to Japanese whiskey because a lot has changed, especially in the last year with Japanese whiskey. So without further ado, we are going to be discussing today the Yamazaki Limited Edition 2015. Okay. This is a new series that was started by Yamazaki last year, partially in tribute, to their recent popularity, their anniversary, stuff like that. But also because a trend in the entire whiskey world in general, and this is a hot topic that I'm not going to get into right now. It's been talked about to death, and that is no age statement whiskeys, or non-age statement, or whatever you want to call it. NAS is popularly referred to, as opposed not. I don't think anybody actually says NAS or anything like that. That sounds really silly, and it sounds like NOS for any Fast and the Furious fans.
I need NOS. I need NOS.
Although there are probably a lot of whiskey drinkers who are out of the category who would know what Fast and the Furious is. I'm stereotyping there, but anyway. A no-age statement whiskey is just what it sounds like. I've reviewed the Yamazaki 12-year-old. I've talked about the 18-year-old, 25-year-old, etc. If it doesn't have the age stated on the bottle, it is what they refer to as NAS, or no-age statement whiskey. It's becoming more popular, for those of you who don't know or are new to whiskey, because whiskey is getting too popular these days. It's very difficult for producers to keep up with demand while still guaranteeing we aged it for X amount of years, especially when you're going a couple decades. You just can't wait for whiskey to age that quickly. They're finding quicker ways to age too, such as by using smaller barrels and things like that. And such as, I've got a smaller barrel here. They don't go quite this small, but, this is one of those cute little things you could buy to age your own whiskey in. There is some whiskey aging in there right now, but I have another one up on the shelf up there. This is a fresh new barrel that I got in Kentucky at the last bourbon trip from the Independent Stave Company, the number one barrel company in Kentucky. They produce barrels for pretty much the entire industry. Well, that's not true. Most of the major producers in Kentucky buy all their barrels from the Independent Stave Company, or the Kentucky Cooperage, as it's also known as. They have very good tours. They get better every year. I wasn't able to go this past year, but the last one I went on was rather entertaining. Great for people who want to see, who are more handymen or just want to see a side of the whiskey world that you don't typically see. Not many distilleries have their own cooperages where they make the barrels, so you don't often get to see that process, so it's pretty cool. So smaller barrel, you have more surface area, which means whiskey ages a lot quicker. And a barrel that size, especially that size, that's a 2 liter, it's ridiculously small. Excuse me. Just a couple weeks is going to age the whiskey as much as a couple months to a couple years in a normal sized barrel, which is, I'm not gonna lift this sucker up on camera. This is a normal sized barrel that was converted into a table. In a normal sized barrel, and a barrel is a size, okay, I've talked about that before, I believe, but barrel is not an object, the cask is the object, but in a barrel, which is typically around 200 liters or so, it ages obviously a lot slower. It's probably a better aging. The younger, quicker aging is a lot harsher sometimes, but it does make the product more mature more quickly. Kind of like, a child who was sent to boarding school when they're young age and, get into high school when they should be in junior high, and their parents expect a lot of them. They mature quickly, but there are some aspects that are just not quite right. And I say that a lot about craft whiskey and some other stuff too. So as far as this goes, though, because of the popularity of whiskey worldwide, and especially Japanese whiskey, most of the big producers are no longer making or are soon getting rid of age statement whiskeys. Suntory has not officially declared that. Yoichi, or actually, I'm sorry, not Yoichi, Nika, who makes Yoichi and Miyagikyo, as well as their Nika blended malts and whatnot, they have officially declared that they are stopping their age statement whiskeys, which has caused mayhem in the market. Everyone is buying up all of the 10, 15, 12-year-old, 20-year-old, and all those whiskeys from Nika. And it's madness in Japan. You can't find anything anywhere. And it's similar to Suntory. It's madness finding especially the older whiskeys anywhere. And when you do, they're insanely high prices. Even the Hibiki 17-year-old I reviewed earlier in the series, even that as a blended whiskey raised in price. The Yamazaki 12-year-old went from $50 from, back when I reviewed it, jumped all the way up to $70 to $80 or $100. That's even if you can find it. It's amazing. You can't even find that stuff anymore. In America, you could still find it. In Japan, forget about it. In Asia, forget about it. You can still find it scattered throughout America, but at its new price, unfortunately. If you can find it at $50 or less, or around that price, grab all you can. But don't turn around and flip it and sell it online. Everybody does that. That's going to be another rant video later on. Don't even get me started. But anyway. So why is it so popular, you're asking? Well, you probably notice all your friends these days drinking whiskey. People probably got bored of the beer industry. You'll never get bored of it. Come on, we all love beer. Most people, many people over the age of 21. Let's face it, and lots of people of every age. But people are liking, they're getting into more exotic kind of things. Beer had its huge kick, and it's still in there. Everybody's loving their craft beers, but now they're moving on. I want to learn newer stuff. I want to learn cooler stuff. More whatever. People watch, movies and stuff, TV shows, Mad Men, and Bond, and all those movies where they're drinking whiskey, and I want to be like that. And, I want to be cool like that. And then other people just do it because they love the taste of it. Other people do it, there's always all sorts of reasons. But the internet is making it ridiculously easy to learn about it and spread word about, news and what's good and what you should buy. And that's why people are buying them up, flipping them for a higher price. Again, talking about that. But anyway, Japanese whiskey, why is that so popular, though? You just started hearing about it recently in America, probably. You barely know anything about it, likely, but but in Asia, because they're all neighbors and they're all close to each other, they go nuts over it. And Japan especially, they're going crazy over it recently. And that's because in the past couple of years, there's been a few anniversaries for Suntory and for the man I mentioned in previous videos, Masataka Taketsuru, the man who helped start Suntory's success, but also officially started, the Nikka company, which was his own company, a legend in the whiskey world, and especially in Japanese whiskey. It would never be where it is without him. And they also, because of his anniversary and, the Suntory and Nikka anniversaries and whatnot that have been happening, they made a drama recently in the last year or two that was about his life and his Scottish pride. And it was a very popular Japanese drama that, of course, because it's a drama, aka a soap opera, as we might say in America, a lot of housewives suddenly started getting into whiskey. And not just housewives, everybody in general. It's on TV, and people are like, oh, whiskey's all of a sudden interesting now. And they were marketing the crap out of it, like everywhere. Both Suntory and Nikka were marketing like crazy. And, they're making books about the TV show and books about Nikka whiskey, and whiskey in general. And so you had new target audiences, and everybody was just suddenly fascinated with whiskey. And then you have the national pride. Americans know that all too well. Every country does, let's face it. You should love your country. And Japan was no different, Once they realized, they started, to buy it up more and more, and then add to it. In all this madness, you get that award by Jim Murray. Jim Murray is an author for whiskey reviews. Controversial author, somewhat controversial in the whiskey world. Does his own thing, but he is very knowledgeable and very experienced, without a doubt. He has several thousand whiskeys a year. And he releases a book called The Whiskey Bible every year. And last year, the winner was actually the 2013 edition of the Yamazaki Sherry Cask, which doesn't even get released in America. But everybody in America was calling up their liquor stores everywhere. Can I buy this? Can I buy this? Can I buy this? Can I buy this? No, because even in Japan, it's limited edition. So, but it blew up worldwide. News articles everywhere were saying, Japanese whiskey is suddenly... Japanese whiskey was rated the #1 whiskey in the world over Scotch and bourbon and everything else. And, this is the same controversy that started a few years earlier with Mr. Murray when he rated the George T. Stagg, I believe it was, or the Handy, Thomas H. Handy, a rye whiskey. But he rated American whiskeys as the best. That caused controversy, but nothing like this, because Asia in general, not just Japan, but Asia and the whole world just exploded like, oh my gosh, a Japanese whiskey. Nobody even, half the world didn't even know that Japan made whiskey or made good whiskey. But I've talked about in previous videos that it was amazing. Okay, that's a little, some is amazing and the rest is just really good. With one or two ones in the middle. Getting weird here, but we're staying weird here. Anyway, so Japanese whiskey has gotten really popular. Things flew off the shelves, and because of the unexpected demand, again, whiskey has to wait years, people, in order for it to mature. It's not like beer, where you could brew a batch and, a couple weeks later, a couple months later, this isn't working, we got to try something new, you can try a new recipe. No, this is most of the flavor. Everybody has their own percentages. 60% of the flavor, 80% of the flavor, 90% of the flavor comes from the wood. A huge percent of the flavor comes from the wood, okay? And the longer in the wood, the more it changes. I won't get into, bourbon. I won't get into the cask types. That'll be another video. That'll be hopefully informative. But point is, you have to age it in many cases, many, many, many years. At least a few years. And, it's impossible to forecast what demand will be like in a few years, especially in like 20 years, especially in the whiskey industry and spirits industries and stuff. There's always a new fad and a new trend that people jump to. Things, go in and out of fashion like anything else. So Suntory and Nikka and all the other Japanese makers were kind of hit out of nowhere, especially the big makers, Suntory and Nikka. They were not prepared for the demand. They had to raise their prices and cut back. And as I said, in Nikka's case, they stopped their age statements altogether. They were just hit way too hard, especially from the drama and everything else. And they never made quite as much, I don't think, as Suntory. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, they didn't produce quite as much as Suntory to begin with. So they were hit extra hard. So they're stopping for at least a few years indefinitely. They haven't said when they're going to start the age statements again, if ever. And so those flew off the shelves. It was absurd. Like the pictures I would see online, in just weeks, the whole country was cleared out. And, people were selling even 10-year-old whiskeys online for quadruple the price. And, it's just crazy. So we're going to see a lot more of that. Okay. Hibiki even. Hibiki came out with the Hibiki Harmony in America and all over the world. Notice I reviewed the 17-year-old Hibiki. There's the 12, 21, 30. But those are pretty much, done and almost impossible to find. Now it's down to the Hibiki Harmony, where they use smaller casks to age things quicker, combined with some older whiskeys. But they are using a lot younger whiskeys. It's still really good. I'll review that at some point, probably. But, yeah, it's things are getting crazy. So I could talk forever, clearly, as always, about this stuff, but you probably want to just hear tasting notes, or just a review in general of the whiskey, so I'm going to get into that now. This 2015 limited edition, as I said, it started in 2014, this limited edition series. Hopefully they keep it up. These are amazing. So these are made with whiskeys that were aged... It was made with whiskeys that were aged for over 20 years. Okay, now first you're just like, why doesn't it say 20 years old on the bottle? That would sell so much more. But it was mixed with some younger whiskeys to provide a bit more balance. It was aged with sherry and port, mostly casks for the older ones. And those were European, aged in European oak. And then they mixed it with some younger bourbon barrels that were younger than 20 years. They didn't disclose how young, but the idea was that it added some more sweetness to the fruitiness, and it balanced it out and it mellowed it. But it's still a single malt. Okay, it's not a blend. So it is not. They didn't add grain whiskey. It still all comes from Yamazaki Distillery near Kyoto, between Kyoto and Osaka, the 2014 edition I thought was superb. You can read my review online. I probably won't do a video review of that because I'm doing a video review of this. Might get a little redundant, though they're different whiskeys. I'll mention a little bit of the similarities when I taste it, because obviously I've tasted it. I cheated a little bit, as you can tell by the huge friggin' gap. I'm loving it. Thankfully, I've got another bottle. But without further ado, let's taste this deliciousness. Now, this bottle, one of the greatest bottle designs I have seen in many years. And I'll get a zoom in here, but anyway, it's got a cool mural in the back, and a a gold leaf or a gold, lettering on the front. Clear, no big thick fat label. Some people like the classic labels with the old writing, but I just think this is beautiful. We got embossed great lettering on the back, Suntory single malt whiskey, and there you have it. So, I don't talk about color much with whiskey, so I'm not really going to get into that. Some reviewers, they will tell you the color of it, but everybody has their own, definitions of the color, but also color can be added. I'm pretty positive no color was added to this one. It does have a bit of a redder tinge to it, though it's lighter in color. The redder tinge is surely from the sherry and port cask that they use. A lot of the nose, a lot of the smells that you get from it is the fruitier smells that you would get in those casks as well. A lot of pineapple and cherries I get on the nose there. It reminds me a lot of a Speyside whiskey, as far as the fruitiness goes. Speyside is a region in Scotland. For those who don't know, I don't want to just be talking to people who, already know this stuff. I got to remember to dumb things down. So it's super fruity on the nose. There is some vanilla and kind of custardy, butterscotchy sweetness notes in there as well. But they're softer. They're very light, but it's just jam-packed with fruits on the nose here. As far as the palate, more fruits and sweetness. Vanilla and custard again. The sweetness comes out more than the fruits in this case now. Still very fruity, but it's been mellowed with sweetness and a touch of oak, a little bit of spiciness. There's a distinct melon that I remember from the 2014 edition. That was like the most unique, interesting character I thought of the 2014 edition. Excuse me. This is that embarrassing cough I was talking about. It is not because the whiskey's strong. It is just because I got a tickle in my throat. You don't need to know about that. So again, the fruitiness. There's some berries in the background. Kind of a cherry cordial where the sweetness blends with the berries that I'm tasting and kind of becomes like a cherry cordial, chocolate covered cherry type taste. Again, sweet, fruity, delicious. Very good. Now the finish, it's medium to long. For the most part, I'll say medium. Obviously, it depends on, it's medium finish. Some light flavors linger. It could be considered long to some. But considering some of the whiskeys I've had that go on forever, this isn't quite like that, but it's very pleasant. It's a strong medium and a soft lingering, long finish. There's some bitterness here, but it fades quickly, so that's good. Still some fruits linger, of course. But then there's like vanilla root, and really the oak is finally coming out now, and there's some nice spices that are coming. Again, it's reminding me a lot of a good, very mature Speyside, single malt Scotch. Now it doesn't wow me as much as the 2014 did, but it still has very similar characters. A freshly opened bottle is just amazing. When I first drank it, I was like, oh yeah, that's the stuff. That's what I remember from last year. And just that's Yamazaki greatness in general. And for a relatively reasonable price, though, again, these things go crazy on the secondary market. A standard bottle should be between $70 and $100. Secondary market, it quickly goes to 1.5 to double to triple that, depending on when you can get it in the year. So when the 2016 comes out, for example, people are getting more and more prepared for this. They weren't ready at all for the 2014. Those were on the shelves for a very long time. 2015, not so long. 2016 is going to be less, so be on it. So the 2016, for example, though, it'll probably remain market price for a couple weeks. Then you'll be able to find it at some online retailers, perhaps not, like Rakuten and some other places. In America, you're not going to be able to find this. I'd be shocked if they release this in America anytime soon. I wish they would. I hope they do, but I don't know. So anyway, it's no age statement. You'd think they could cheat and put out a few hundred more barrels into the recipe, but we'll see. Anyway, they'll quickly jump. Like I said, it'll be like $150 a month later and $200 a month after that. Next thing you know, it'll triple, quadruple, quintuple. Yeah, so when I first opened it seemed a lot like the 2014, but a bit fruitier, and that's probably because of the sherry and the port casks and stuff. I think they used a bit more of that than the 2014. They use all different types of barrels. I forget the exact ratio that they have, especially the 2014 one. Yeah. I do like that the melon is still there. It's nowhere near as pronounced as it was before. I do have the 2014 too, by the way. You can tell the difference between them because the 2014 has a brownish black label, and the 2015 has a maroon label. Plus, the 2014 says 2014 on it. Big shocker. And the 2015 says 2015 on the label. A very good way to determine the difference between the two. Anyway, like the Yamazaki 2014 limited edition, this is a lot like a much more elegant version and tastier version of the Yamazaki 12-year-old. Okay, so if you like that, of course, you're going to really love this. It's It has more sherry than the Yamazaki 2014. Some of those sherry and port flavors than I remember or that were noticeable in the 2014 edition. But at the same time, it doesn't have the amount of sherry you'd find in the Yamazaki 18-year-old. It's not quite as sherried and robust as that. And it's definitely not a sherry monster or anything like that. Or sherry bomb, as some people call it. Those are your more like your single malt scotches from certain distilleries or your certain brands like your Aberlour A'bunadh or your, a lot of your GlenDronach and stuff like that are just heavily aged, thick and aged in sherry casks specifically. Now, this just has lots of good hints of it. It's a good blend of your different single malts from Yamazaki. And so, it still has a distinct Japanese quality, which is nice. Not so much as the 2014, though. It doesn't quite have that, Japanese quality and still constantly interesting. This one fades over time, okay? When I first opened it, it was amazing. It was absolutely delicious. It reminded me of the 2014 completely. But, as it oxidized, this one kind of mellowed out, whereas the 2014, every time I went back to it, it was quite good. So, because of that, I'm going to give this an 8.6 out of 10, okay? Now, for those of you who follow Viscosity or frequently check Viscosity.com, I should just make you go and check Viscosity.com, make you do some work. But but for those of you who keep up, I think I gave the Yamazaki 2014 limited edition something like an 8.7 or something. Now, I'm marking this a little bit lower, I think, just because, like I said, it kind of mellowed out over time and became a little less interesting, but it's still really good stuff. And if you like the Yamazaki 12-year-old, you're going to love this. Now, the reason I don't give this anything in the 9.0 region or anything like that, for one thing, it's an arbitrary scale, okay, but the just subjective, but still, that's meant for stuff that you can't stop thinking about. You just want to, even as you're drinking it, you just want to keep going back for more. It's full of complexity and flavors, and it's fascinating. It's the kind of stuff you tell your friends about, where you take a sip and you just look and this is something special. But this is still extremely good. Don't get me wrong. It's superb. I definitely recommend it, especially if you can find it at retail price, which is probably going to be really difficult. And like I said, it's not available in America. But ask for it, beg for it. Hopefully it gets here. It's still really, really good, and like I said, I love the packaging. I'm not a big fan of those, like perfume bottles that a lot of the fancy whiskeys get. But this is nice. They keep the regular bottle shape and size that they do with their normal bottles, but they just make it a lot more elegant. Very reasonable price, somewhere around 8,000 yen to 10,000 yen, depending. That's basically around a very bad estimate on exchange rates, but between $80 and $100 or so, give or take a lot, possibly depending on the exchange rate. But anyway, secondary market is going to be a lot more expensive, but still, I definitely recommend this. It's an excellent whiskey. If you can get it, go for it. But again, thanks again for everybody for watching and bearing with me. I'm going to try to make some more of these videos. Subscribe, provide some feedback. I'm going to keep these going. Okay. In the meantime, enjoy your whiskey. I'm definitely going to enjoy this. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for watching.